The Meghan Markle yacht girl claims simply will not go away. And you know, I've spoken about this before, but until now, no one in the mainstream media has been brave enough to go there.
The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle and the so-called yacht girl allegations has resurfaced once again. This time, the discussion has been reignited by comments linked to columnist Julie Burchill and her criticism of Meghan's upcoming women-only event in Australia. But what exactly was said? Why has the story attracted so much attention? And where does the line between legitimate media criticism and unverified internet speculation actually begin? In this video, we examine the claims, the commentary surrounding them, Meghan's growing commercial profile, and the wider questions being raised about celebrity culture and royal reporting.
Changed. With Julie Burchill, who I think is one of the most fabulous and brave and unfiltered and hilarious columnists in all of the United Kingdom, bringing the Meghan Markle yacht girl questions, at least, I mean, she has been careful, to the UK's oldest periodical, The Spectator. This is quite a surprising place for her to do it. It is part of this wider examination into Meghan Markle's so-called Girls' Weekend. And I will get to this whole column and what she has said specifically in just one moment. But first, let me bring in royal YouTube sensation P. Diner. P. Diner, really interesting, isn't it? Sure, it's baby steps. But the fact that we now have a mainstream media figure, a very famous one, posing the question directly, you know, I want to ask Meghan Markle about her yacht girl past. To me, it feels like quite a significant moment because, of course, there is so much about Meghan Markle's time on those yachts that we do not know. And I will repeat once again that David Boies, the former lawyer for the late Virginia Giuffre, wanted Meghan Markle to give a deposition on behalf of Virginia Giuffre to give evidence in court about what she knew in regards to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's behaviour. There is clearly public interest around this. I need you to do something for me right now. It is free, it is easy, it is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet.
Absolutely. You know, it's something that we have been talking about for a while. And I think having this go mainstream is starting to open up the dialogue for more and more credibility with the journalists that have, I think, been told not to even mention this. We have to remember that there are things that they couldn't even say about this. But I think now they're allowed to start, questioning things about Meghan that we all have some evidence of. I mean, what is she doing on the yacht? Why did David Boies want to question her? Why is she with Karina Shuliak? Why are there people in Meghan's social circle, that are in the same social circle as Andrew? You have to question that and you have to address it. And it has to be something that we continue to talk about because there is something there that we need to find the missing pieces to, because I believe a lot of it was scrubbed off of the internet way before we even knew who Meghan Markle was. But slowly but surely it's going to start coming out. And this is the kind of storytelling, transparency, journalism that we need to put it all together, because there is a there. Something is going on. And Meghan and all the things that she has done to, pull other people down and to question them and their behavior. Well, let's continue to turn the tables and talk about you, Miss Meghan Markle, and what you have done.
Julie Burchill's criticism appears to focus less on proving the allegations and more on Meghan's transition from royal life to commercial celebrity. The column reportedly mocked the cost of the Australian women-only retreat and questioned whether the event represented empowerment, entertainment, or simply another highly profitable celebrity appearance. The event is being marketed as an opportunity for women to reconnect, recharge, learn, and enjoy a weekend of conversation and activities. Supporters may see that as a legitimate business venture built around Meghan's public profile. Critics, however, view it as evidence that the Duchess of Sussex is increasingly monetizing her royal connection. The central question is whether audiences are paying for meaningful access and discussion, or simply for proximity to a famous name.
Because let me tell you something, as a aspiring actress and the things that Meghan will do for fame, we only can imagine what this woman was up to well before she was even on Suits, because she's a very ambitious, tenacious woman that wants this celebrity lifestyle. And I think she would have been like no other woman who was trying to find a break in Hollywood to do these kinds of things. Absolutely is what Meghan would have done. It makes so much sense. So let's find out the details on that.
Of course, and we do await the publication of Jessica Reed Krause's House in Habit investigation into Meghan Markle's Yacht Girl past, which she has promised and has spent 6 years working on. And I am licking my lips in anticipation for when she drops that. But look, I want to take you through the Julie Burchill column because it's just so much fun anyway, P. Dinah, because obviously this Australian girls weekend is nothing more than a money-making sham. You know, there's nothing about her best life, because we learned this week that the organizer, Gemma, who is behind it, has just had to declare bankruptcy because she owes something like 700,000 Australian dollars. And we know Meghan Markle needs the money too. So all of this is about the money. And that's where Julie Burchill is so brilliant, because she says in the headline of this piece, Meghan has passed from the ranks of royalty to that of pay by the hour celebrity, which is just so true, isn't it? So here's Julie Burchill. I almost spat out my toast, smothered with the as ever, the raspberry spread trio made to keep on hand and enjoy, often $42 naturally, in pure molten anticipation when I read that my role model in spreading jam to flour, speaking the truth to power, will be hosting a women-only weekend retreat in Sydney during her forthcoming Australia jaunt, with tickets a steal at 2,699 Australian dollars. I already had my credit card in my hot little hand until I remembered that though I love to lunch tete-a-tete with one lady, being in the company of many women at once with not one awful toxic man around makes me feel like drawing crude approximations of penises on fragrant toilet doors after around half an hour. Still, what a smorgasbord of Mary Sueisms this will be for anyone who doesn't mind breathing undiluted estrogen for 3 days. Touted as a girls' weekend like no other, this sumptuous banquet of positivity will be hosted by Her Best Life podcast at the 5-star Intercontinental Sydney Coogee Beach. The host of Her Best Life proclaimed, I have admired Meghan and what she has endured and how she has demonstrated how a woman can be pushed down and she can still rise. It's a very small event for 300 women. It's going to be a fireside chat with Meghan. Sounds like something you'd do with a steamed pudding rather than a life, making one hope that there will be more recipe tips aplenty, such as Meghan's timeless when in doubt, chuck some flower petals on top and hope they're not poisonous. Take it from one who knows. An event with 300 women present will not be a fireside chat. Julie Burchill recalls, on my 50th birthday many moons ago, I thought it would be fun to invite 50 close female friends on a steaming July day to a daytime celebration at a gorgeous Brighton beach bar. Mostly media girls down from London with a smattering of local sex workers, and within a few hours it was mayhem. There was one catfight, a serious slugfest, which an actual bounce had to break up, 2 alfresco lesbian hookups, which brought complaints from passing parents, 3 cautions from management for frank and open drug use, and 4 early departures and tears because the fortune teller I had thoughtfully provided had foretold fortunes which weren't what the curious ones had expected. I sincerely doubt that Meghan's get-together will be that much fun. It's mired in me mulch already. The secret of throwing a great party is making people forget themselves. This, on the other French manicured hand, sounds like an en masse navel-gazing featuring, as it does, a psychology session, sound healing meditation and manifestation, which can often end up being quite the downer when added to a few slugs of cheap wine. You just know the wine will be cheap, probably decanted into special Meghan keepsake bottles. Or as the Her Best Life account posted on Instagram, This is going to be an unforgettable weekend designed for women who want to reconnect, recharge, laugh, learn, and have some serious fun. Again, Julie Burchill says, in my experience, what happens on a genuinely good night out is generally best forgotten. As for the highlight of the weekend will be an in-person conversation with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, I don't think it'll be what we generally consider a conversation, characterised by the exchange of views and information. No one will get to ask anything interesting, like, how many yachts was she a guest on before she met her prince? Was it double figures or triple? Nobody will get a sniff of what that special thing she must have done in the sack, excuse my crudity, in order to hook a man who's admittedly dim but is fifth in line to the throne, which would definitely have been my question. On the upside, we are also promised a dance floor-filled disco night. I would pay good money, if not quite the large sum required, to see the dirty Duchess twerking as she did prior to birthing little Princess Lily. That she is charging people to have their photograph taken with her, like an ex-Doctor Who at a sci-fi fan convention, is proof, if we needed it, that Meghan has passed irretrievably from the ranks of royalty to that pay-by-the-hour celebrity. And think of all the jam she must have left. In tricky situations, I tend to think, what would Joan Jett do? In the late 1970s, after the breakup of her band The Runaways and being rejected by a whopping 23 record labels, the wonderful woman oversaw the pressing of her debut solo album Bad Reputation herself and sold it out of the back of a Cadillac after she had played shows. If Meghan's going to make a regular thing of these meet and greets, she could get shot of the sticky proof of her Netflix misadventure in no time. So look, P. Dinah, it was so much fun that, but as I say, the key line there, and the line that really, really interested me, was not a question about whether she was a yacht girl, but just simply stating as a fact and then asking, was it double figures or triple in terms of how many yachts she was a guest on before she met Prince Harry?
Wow, wow, wow. It's almost like there's so much to be revealed about that. I just can't wait to get all the details. But the one thing that struck me about this article is about how they were going to try to show Meghan as someone who has been wronged. Like make talking about what happened to her and making it all about her with these women. And I just find Meghan she's a con artist. She's going to show up to have this weekend with these girls and make it look like she was somehow the person who was had some trauma from her time within the royal family, because I can only imagine that's what's going to happen. She's going to talk about her time as a royal. She wants to connect herself to royalty as much as she can. But, like she was saying, this is Meghan grifting at the highest level, because, we can't forget how she talked about when she was doing a walkabout, saying she should be paid for this. Well, here we go. She's being paid to do something very similar, with her title, because that's what she always wanted to do. And it looks so cheap. It looks desperate. And it just makes Meghan look like that yacht girl that she was, that we know she was. This is very insightful to me to hear this article. It's just Meghan is at the bottom of the barrel.
She is, and
point,
there's so many
like
exposés going on at the moment, P. Dinah, including from the Wall Street Journal, which has a very interesting take on how Prince William and Prince Harry might speak again. And again, what's interesting to me about this is that the Wall Street Journal is a very mainstream publication, and it is a very sort of American liberal publication in a lot of ways, yet it is now openly talking about the fact that at some point Harry and Meghan will probably end up splitting, and that's when William and Harry will come back together. Now, this is the shock new report, which uncovers the one scenario that could force Harry and William to speak after 1,284 days of silence. Now, I'm reading out the take on this report by Daniela Elsa, who does very good work for news.com.au. And she writes, Prince William and Prince Harry are not believed to have spoken in 1,284 days. That was as of Tuesday, a bit earlier in the week. The chances of them ever casually shooting the breeze over text, let alone sharing their hopes, dreams, and fears over a warm pint, are up there with Donald Trump doing a short course in feminist theory. However, now the Wall Street Journal, taking a break from salivating over frothy AI stocks, has reported there is one scenario when Harry would have to pick up the phone to his brother or at least dust off their WhatsApp chat if he were to remarry. What the Sussexes have not done is to hit back at this report in the Wall Street Journal, offering us the most unexpected sorties into royal reporting since Horse and Hound exposed Edward VIII's pen paling with Himmler. The journal piece, based on more than a dozen interviews with personal and professional associates, suggests that the Sussexes' life is not exactly the sun-drenched Edenic one that Meghan's Instagram feed might make it out to be. The good news: Harry is happily settled into family life in Montecito, continuing to advocate for the causes he cares about and often starting his day with school drop-off.
Perhaps the most important part of this story is not the rumour itself, but the way rumours move through the media. A claim may begin on social media, circulate through commentary channels, and eventually be mentioned by a mainstream columnist. Once that happens, some audiences interpret the reference as confirmation. But those are two very different things. Responsible reporting requires a clear separation between what is documented, what has been alleged, and what remains unknown. In this case, the yacht-related allegations remain unverified. There is no established evidence in the material discussed here that proves them. The larger story is therefore about media standards. Should established publications engage with internet narratives that were once ignored, or does repeating those narratives give them credibility they have not earned?
The bad news: people who have spent time with him in recent months have also found him adrift and isolated, with Meghan chasing new pursuits as he passes the time in his sleepy new hometown. Harry is reportedly struggling to forge a new existence. Adding to this picture is that Tom Sykes of the Daily Beast and the Royalist Substack recently revealed that Harry is only still in contact with one of the best men from his wedding. And indeed, we saw that picture, didn't we, recently from Netflix, which just showed you how many best men Harry had. And now there's only one of these men is he still in contact with. According to the Journal, after the couple's Archewell Foundation was dissolved in December, which blindsided staff, they have little to work on together. And then we get to the Journal's very surprising ending, which gets into what could happen to Harry and Meghan when William ascends to the throne, such as him having the power to scrub their titles. The Journal points out in its very final sentence, if Harry were ever to remarry, he would have to ask the king to consent first. For the record, if there was a day when Harry walked up the aisle with someone else, yes, it would require King William's consent, and it would also see Meghan lose her title and be bumped down only to being Mrs. Sussex. Now again, P. Diner, what is extraordinary about this to me is the fact that the Wall Street Journal is actually going there. Like, in some ways, this piece was so boring. I mean, I've reported for months how unhappy Harry is, but it's good in some ways to see the mainstream media catching up. More interesting to me, though, that they're actually putting out there the very real prospect that it is likely that at some point Harry and Meghan will divorce, and that would mean that Harry, assuming William was king at that point, would have to ask him for permission to remarry. It's an astonishing proposition.
The reason this story has become significant is not because any allegation has been proven. It is because a prominent columnist chose to reference a rumor that had largely existed in online discussions. For many royal commentators, the bigger story is that a mainstream publication has acknowledged the existence of those rumors. That raises an important question. Is this a shift in media coverage, or simply a columnist commenting on the internet conversation itself? Those are two very different things. One of the most interesting aspects of this debate is how mainstream media handles controversial claims. Traditionally, established publications have been cautious about repeating unverified allegations. The legal and ethical standards are very different from those of social media. That is why many commentators are focusing less on the allegation itself and more on the fact that it was mentioned at all. Few modern public figures have generated as polarized a media environment as Meghan Markle. Supporters argue that she has been subjected to extraordinary scrutiny. Critics argue that legitimate questions have often been dismissed too quickly. The result is a media ecosystem in which almost every story becomes a proxy battle over larger issues involving the monarchy, celebrity culture, and journalism. What do we know with certainty? We know a prominent columnist referenced long-running online rumors. We know the column has sparked significant media discussion. We know social media has amplified the controversy. What we do not know is whether the underlying allegations are true. At present, those claims remain unverified. The real story may not be the rumor itself. It may be the fact that mainstream media is increasingly engaging with internet narratives that were once considered too controversial to mention. That raises important questions about journalism, evidence, and the responsibilities of commentators discussing public figures. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe for more royal news commentary, media analysis, and in-depth discussions of the stories shaping the monarchy and the Sussexes.
The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle continues because it combines several powerful subjects: celebrity, wealth, royal status, gender, media criticism, and public distrust. For supporters, the latest discussion represents another example of Meghan being unfairly targeted. For critics, it reflects growing frustration with what they see as carefully managed celebrity branding and the continued use of royal associations. But the most responsible conclusion is a cautious one. Some of the claims discussed in this debate remain allegations, not established facts. The real story may be less about proving a rumor and more about understanding why certain narratives continue to attract public attention. As the Sussexes pursue new projects, the scrutiny is unlikely to disappear. Every appearance, interview, commercial venture, and media report will continue to be interpreted through the larger argument over their relationship with the royal family. What do you think? Is this legitimate media criticism, unfair speculation, or a mixture of both? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe for more royal news commentary, media analysis, and in-depth discussions of the stories shaping Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the monarchy.